Am I the asshole for calling my husband a dick for thinking our new home is more his than it is mine? My 35 female husband, 37 male, and I have recently moved into a new home, a bigger home, where we're hoping on raising our kids. 5 female, 3 female, 2 male. Well, I do not currently work. I have a degree to get a job that will pay me well, but my husband and I both decided that I should stop working for a bit to help with the kids. My husband makes a lot, in my opinion, and in general, and it's mostly his money paying for the house. And because of this fact, he has taken a liking to calling our house, quote, his house, instead of our house. This has annoyed me a bit, but I've just been going along with it. And every time I bring it up, he goes, yeah, right. I reached my breaking point about 2 days ago when my husband had his friends over and he made a remark saying, quote, my money did this. I was very upset at the remark, but I waited until his friends left. Then I kind of flipped him off, to which I eventually called him a huge dick for continuing to say his after I told him that I don't like the phrase. He's been sleeping in the guest room since, and we haven't really been talking. I'm asking here to see if I'm the ass for what I said.
My mom had an affair with my brother's wife. My brother met his wife when they were both 25 and in their last year of school. They got engaged really fast, like about 4 to 5 months after they met. During their engagement, they spent a lot of time together, but they were never allowed to be fully alone together. So this meant that she would spend a lot of time at my house where either me, my mom, or my sister would spend the night with them. Inevitably, we all got super comfortable around each other, and this is when things started to get weird with my mom. My mom, who is 44 years old, started to get a little too friendly with my sister-in-law. Like, for example, we would be watching a movie and they would sit together, and then that turned into leaning on each other, and then that turned into full-on cuddling with each other. Another example is that they would FaceTime each other 24/7, and I'm talking about like waking up and falling asleep to each other on FaceTime. So eventually me and my sister would call my mom out on this, and she got extremely angry, and she was just saying that they were super close, so they would talk a lot, and she said she would stop calling her and talking to her so much, but she actually never ended up not talking to her as much, and she would just hide when they would be FaceTiming, and they would FaceTime for hours, sometimes even with AirPods in, just listening to each other's background noises, and then they would text each other when they would want to say something to each other. This went on for the entire engagement. Me and my sister would joke about how they were lovers, but we were really honestly just joking because we never thought that it would actually get that far. I had just gotten home from work, and my mom, my sister-in-law, and my sister were all sitting on the couch together. My sister had just gotten home like 10 minutes before me, and my sister-in-law and my mom had been together alone all day. I took a seat next to my sister on the couch, and she texted me and said, go look at what's on mom's bed, but don't make it obvious. So I got up really quickly, and I secretly went and took a peek into my mom's room. I didn't see anything at first, so I went in and took another quick look, and I saw a strap in the corner of my mom's room. I'm just gonna let you figure out what kind of strap it was. Me and my sister were in complete shock, obviously, because we knew that they had been the only ones home together alone all day. Me and my sister went back and forth for a while on what we should do, but then a couple days later we decided to just tell our brother, and he believed us immediately because he also saw all the red flags. He called his wife and told her that he knows what she did and he wants a divorce immediately, and then she called my mom after that, screaming and crying to my mom. And then my mom ran out to her car and she left. I have no idea what happened after that. All I know is my mom came home a couple hours later just acting like nothing even happened. Then my sister ended up telling her friend that our brother and wife were getting divorced, and he said, oh great, now I can ask you why you have inappropriate videos of her on your laptop. It turns out that my sister had asked him for help on one of her assignments, and he had opened the notes app on her computer and saw one of the videos of our sister-in-law, and then he just closed out because he just wanted to act like nothing happened. Turns out that my sister was actually logged into my mom's Apple ID because she was using her old laptop, so all of the notes and everything from our mom's phone got transferred onto her laptop. Me and my sister ran home and went to look through the laptop, and there it was. Dozens and dozens of videos and pictures of my sister-in-law doing so many inappropriate things, and screenshots and text messages. And the text messages weren't much, but I just remember one of them said, "I wish I met you first. I love you so much. I love you more than James, my brother." We sent all the evidence, obviously, over to my brother, and he showed his wife, and then she admitted to everything.
Yes, ma'am. In 18 days, I am marrying a guy from TikTok. And here is our story. And I have to admit, the craziest part is not that we met on TikTok. So several years ago, there was this guy that kept popping up on my For You page. So one day after I put my son to bed, I was scrolling TikTok and he popped up on my page again. I clicked on his profile and he was singing. I watched several of his videos and I was like, oh, okay. Very nice. He had a red hair and a cute little curly mullet. And I noticed that he was from Kentucky. Well, I am from Tennessee. And not knowing that Kentucky is bigger than just right over the line. Anyways. So I added him. On TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, hashtag all of the above. Yeah, I did that. And that was very out of the norm for me, but I did it. And I can't say that I regret it. So the next morning, guess who accepted all of my requests? Mr. Ethan Turner. And months went on. He would mention us actually meeting and I would say no. I would never meet up with him, but I couldn't wait to talk to him again. And I was like, you're being an idiot. So the middle of September rolls around and this man asked me to be his date to a wedding. I wouldn't really say yes or no because I was like in a battle with myself. Like I really wanted to go, but stubborn, okay? That's it. Like, that's the moral of the story. So all the way up until this wedding, he's like, I don't have a date. You're welcome to go with me. You can go with me, da da da. And I'm like, okay, I'll think about it. Okay, I'm thinking about it. And the whole time I'm like thinking to myself, I don't want him to have somebody else go to this wedding with him. So I decide I'm going to this wedding and I tell him, okay, I'm going. And he keeps checking with me because he's thinking that I'm not going to show up. And here's the crazy part, okay? I'm talking to my best friend about this man I met on the TikTok. And I tell her he is from Milton, Kentucky. And she was like, what? And I said, Milton, Kentucky. It's like 3.5 hours away. I know where that is. Like, you do? Yeah, that's where mom and dad grew up. I was like, shut up. No, it's not. Well, her parents are like bonus parents to me. So I call her mom and I'm like, guess what? Long story short, she asked me for his mama's name. And I tell her. And come to find out, his parents went to high school with her parents. So number one, I feel safer now about making this trip. But number two, I can't back out now because now everybody's waiting for an update. Hear how this turns out, you know? So the wedding weekend comes and I go up there to meet him. 3.5 hours away. So obviously I didn't die. But firstly, I am so amazed at the amount of people that know where Milton, Kentucky is. That's pretty awesome. And I love Madison, Indiana. It's like a small Hallmark town, and I love it there. As you heard in part one, I told him that I was coming. So I leave Nashville, and I head north 3.5 hours away. The entire time I'm on the phone with my girlfriends, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Da, 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 da. But I'm so excited to meet this man that I had been talking to, FaceTime, you know, for months now. I get off the exit at Sligo, for all you people who know exactly what I'm talking about, and I get so nervous, okay? Like, my anxiety goes through the roof at this time. I just traveled 3.5 hours to meet this man. Growing up in my era, that's when Catfish on MTV was a thing. And we saw some pretty crazy stuff on there. So what if it was like some AI person on TikTok and on FaceTime? I never thought about that until I got off the exit. Anyways, the GPS at this point says you're 20-25 minutes away. I pull in the driveway and I see the truck that I know he owns that we have FaceTimed in many a time. So I'm like, okay, that's good. Like, how can he make up a truck too? And himself. I'm dumb. He meets me at the door and we give each other a hug. He says, Wow, you really came this time. So we go inside, and I could tell he was nervous. I was definitely nervous. This was not the kind of conversation we had been having over FaceTime every second of every day when we could. It was actually pretty comical. Like, who are they? The wedding was not actually until the next day. So Friday night, we went to the tap room in Madison, Indiana. It is still, till this day, one of my favorite places to go. Their shrimp tacos. We had a couple of drinks, we ate dinner, started to loosen up a little bit, we were laughing, cutting up. I remember going to the bathroom and telling the girls, like, I'm alive, we're having a good time. Like, he's pretty cool. But the next morning was a different story. It's time to get ready for this wedding, and this wedding is like an hour and something away. I'm getting ready in his bathroom. I noticed that there are girl things in the shower and girl things in the closet. Old curling iron. I'm already thinking, like, this man has done played me. Girls, y'all know how it is. So I've already created this whole scenario in my head. And I walked out of that bathroom. Number one, he told me I was beautiful. And I just kind of rolled my eyes and smiled. And then he immediately said, I know you saw that stuff in the bathroom and in the shower. So before you start creating a scenario in your head, just know that it is my sister's stuff. She did stay here for a little bit. That is her stuff. She's going to come back and get it. And I was like, yeah, I was wondering if a female was going to pop up or something. It's time to get in the car and to leave for this wedding. I have to admit, there was moments of silence and not silence. And there was moments. We get to this wedding and there is a race car in the front of this venue. And I am thinking to myself, this is the most Kentuckiest shit I've ever seen. He actually comes and opens my door, helps me get out. Everybody is just so sweet. It's just a good night. We had a really good time. All of his friends were so welcoming. Everyone had great things to say. After the wedding, we continued to hang out with his friends. I remember when the weekend was over, I was ready to get back home, and I knew I had a long drive home. Digest some things. I hadn't been out of this man's driveway for 5 minutes, and he already texted me. This was just the first weekend that we met. I knew that this 3-hour drive I just did and the weekend we just had was about to be life-changing in more ways than one.
Date got angry that he arrived 7 hours before and I wasn't there. Maybe I was in the wrong not to rush to him. I am female 40 and he is male 52. I've been chatting with a man online that lives in a different state to me for the last 4 months. We've been talking every day online and on the phone for hours at a time, and we decided to meet today. He drove 8 hours to see me, and we arranged that we would meet at a coffee shop at 2 p.m. He calls and tells me he drove all night to see me, and he arrived at 7 a.m. I had things on in the morning and wasn't able to leave to see him straight away. I did cancel some appointments and was in a hurry to try to see him earlier. I get an angry call from him at 11:45 asking how much longer I'll be and where I am. I said I'm leaving in 30 to 45 minutes and we'll see him soon. 15 minutes later, he calls again and starts shouting at me saying I am playing games with him and he is sick of waiting for me and I am playing games with him and he is driving home and to forget the coffee date. I managed to calm him down and left what I was doing, was getting my hair done, and yes, I left the salon with it half done and went to him immediately. When I got there, he was cold and angry, and he said, "You're not what I want. I don't want a woman that takes forever to come to me." I tried to explain to him that we arranged to meet at 2 p.m., and just because he decided to drive all night to see me and arrive early, that was great, but I couldn't drop everything to see him. He was so angry that he was rude to staff as well, and he was complaining that the coffee wasn't good, and it was cold, etc. Everything was bothering him, and in the end, he just left me there and said he is leaving, he is going home. My heart is broken, as I spent 4 months getting to know this man, so many hours online and on the phone, and this is how it ended. He said he felt that if I was serious about him, I would have arrived within 2 hours of him arriving instead of coming at the time we had both arranged. Am I in the wrong, and I messed this all up? Should I have done something different, and the outcome would have been different? Edit. Wow, thank you so much to each and everyone who took the time to post comments and advice. I'm reading each and every comment, and it's helping me a lot. This man has told me he's had 2 failed marriages and a string of failed short-term relationships. He reckons he's fussy, and no woman meets the standards he's seeking. It's all starting to make sense now. I had my rose-colored glasses on, as I really liked the person he portrayed himself to be. I come from a dysfunctional family upbringing, so I guess that's why I tolerate it so much. It's been 3 days, and he hasn't said anything. It's been complete silence.
So I live in Provo, Utah for 6 months of the year, and the rumors are true. The dating there is literally horrific. So I got asked the other day, like, what my worst date was, and I literally think I like trauma blocked it. And I'm going to tell you guys my worst date in Utah. Okay, I'm going to spark notes this worst date ever. I get set up by him from an extended family relative of mine. So we go on a date, wasn't into it. Long story short, he was into me, and he posted something on social media basically trying to make me jealous, but it just it like offended me, and I unfollowed him on every platform. He sends me a text and he's like, hey, you know, honestly, like, I'm so sorry about what I did. I'm wondering if, like, I could take you out to just basically, like, apologize and, like, olive branch this, since, you know, I want to make sure, like, basically said something. I want to make sure this doesn't offend, like, your family as well. I literally responded and I said, sure, I have 10 minutes on Wednesday. Honestly, good for me. So, also, please remember I'm 19 at this time. So he comes and he's like, let's just go get ice cream. I'll bring you back in 10 minutes. Okay. So we get my Chick-fil-A ice cream and I'm like, this was great. Thanks for the olive branch. No hard feelings. Just like, please never talk to me again and call it a day. No, he starts driving me up the canyon. And if you're not like from like Provo, area, there's a lot of canyons and a lot of like, I have no idea where I am moments if you're just like driving up there. So he takes me and he starts just like going, and I'm like, hey, like, where are you going? I need to go home. He's like, no, I need to talk to you. And I was like, no, like, I need to go home. All of a sudden I have no idea. I'm in no man's land. And he's like, parks the car and he looks at me. He's like, why won't you date me? And I was like, and I'm trying to be nice, and I was like, I'm very busy. No joke, this man starts sweating like buckets, and he starts like, what is this word? Like rocking, and he's like, why won't you date me? Like, I just don't get it. Like, we'd be such a good couple. And I was like, but I've been on one date with this guy, guys. So I literally was like, hey, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just like, it's not gonna work for me. And like, thanks for the ice cream. And I'm starting to get like scared because he's sweating. His face is turning red. I don't know where I am. And he gets out of the car. So he gets out of the car and he opens his trunk. I literally was like, I'm about to die. So I look at my phone, no service. And I'm just kind of accepting my fate. Not really though. I was like yelling at him and I was like, hey, like, I need to go home. I don't know what you're doing. So he starts looking around for something in the back of his truck. I'm thinking it's like rope. Like, I literally am like thinking the worst. He doesn't come back to me. He walks into the woods and he goes, Etienne, come over here. No, I'm not going over there. I'm not getting out of the car. And no, it was giving like, what's that clown's name? Like the clown being like, Georgie, come down the drain. You know, that little boy. Like, I was like, oh, I'm about to die. And he was like he all of a sudden got really calm. Like, he was yelling at me, then he was calm, and he's in the woods now after he went in his trunk. So I'm like, no. And I'm like, hey, like, take me home right now. So I'm starting to like get like stern because my life's like on the line, it feels like. And he was like, you're not done with your ice cream. I can't take you home. So I rolled down the window and I chucked the ice cream and I'm like, I'm done. Take me home. So he comes back to the car. Still to this day, I have no idea what he grabbed or if anything out of the truck or trunk of his car. And all of a sudden, he starts driving 80 miles an hour down this little pavement. By the way, like, it's like maybe 15 miles an hour. We're cruising down and he starts yelling at me again. And he's like, why aren't we dating? Why aren't we dating? And I literally just like was never more forward in my life. And I was like, because I don't like you. I don't like you. I don't want to be with you. This isn't going to work. He somehow made it back to my house in one piece because he was hauling and he started sweating again. Like, I don't even know what was going on with this dude. And then I'm getting out of the car and I'm just like, okay, bye. And I'm literally like, no, like, I literally do not like you at all. That was the weirdest, scariest experience of my life. And while I'm getting out of the car, he goes, can we end this with a hug? My little like 19-year-old self is like, I guess. I go to give him a hug over the console of the car. He tries to grab my face and kiss me. And I literally shoved him, slammed his door, and sprinted into my home. So I've been in therapy for 4 years now. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I just hate dating in Provo. So that was my crazy story. So
am I wrong for saying I'll be driving myself and paying for my own room on the upcoming family vacation so I won't have to be a babysitter? I, 23 male, was repeatedly stuck playing the part of helper and babysitter on our family outings. I had to move out of my parents' house because I kept being forced to help watch my 3 nephews. Last year, we took a family vacation in summer to the coast. I rode along with my parents and they paid for my hotel room. Only I had to share that room with 3 rowdy boys because my sister and her husband wanted a room to themselves. I was promised time to do my own things on the vacation, but instead I ended up having to help with these kids. I complained to everyone about it and was reminded I was there for free. And then we pretty much just did only one thing I wanted to do, which was a tour of an art gallery. I like doing this whenever I'm at the coast, but the kids find it boring. This year my parents have a beach trip planned for June, and they assumed I'd be riding along the same way as last year, but I refused. I said I'd be driving myself and paying for my own hotel stay to have my own room. My parents were shocked and tried to remind me of the cost. I said it was no worry, I've got a good job and a decent running car. I can more than afford it. That's when the but started. I stated the previously listed things as why I'll be driving myself and paying for myself. I want to be able to enjoy this vacation as an adult and not be treated like a child like last year. My parents told my sister and she called to blow up at me that I'll be ruining the vacation if I'm off doing my own thing while she has to wrangle her 3 boys. I ended up yelling at her that last year all she did was rope me into her mess. I didn't really get to do much of anything I wanted to do, and I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to just go to an art gallery. I'm a grown man, I deserve my own vacation too. Now my sister is not speaking to me, and my parents are still trying to convince me to just ride with them to keep the peace. I'm still refusing, but the pressure is getting to me. Am I the asshole for not giving in? I know they'll have a pretty hard time when they won't have another person there to help.
Am I the arsehole for wanting to cancel a party that my husband is throwing for his best friend? Story time. So my husband Steve and his best friend Dave have been best friends since primary school. Dave has never been in a single relationship, and apparently this is something that he feels really insecure about. So for Dave's birthday, my husband decided that we would throw him a birthday at our house, and it would be a chance for him to meet loads of girls. I was going to invite a lot of my single friends. Now I am 7 months pregnant and I wasn't really in the mood for throwing a party. I said to my husband that it'd be absolutely fine because I thought it might be a nice way to see my friends and get my mind off the anxieties of giving birth. So around 30 people were invited to our party. Most of them were girls. So even though I'm pregnant and obviously can't drink, I promised him that I would make some cocktails for everybody because I just thought it was a nice thing to do. And that was when he kind of looked at me a little bit weird and was like, why are you offering? Who else would have made them? As if he was just expecting me to make them anyway, which did sort of, you know, like throw me off a little bit. It was his event for his friends, so I took a moment to ask him what we were going to be doing about food, and I told him that he should call a caterer. There's no way I was making food for 30 people, which he gave me another weird look and was like, I thought you'd be doing it. Your girl was too stunned to speak. So I was like, sorry, can you just repeat what you just said there? And again, he said the same. Girlies, I kicked off. I said there is no way I'm going to be serving 30 people whilst pregnant for a party that I don't even want. And I told him he could either order some food from like Costco or somewhere or get a caterer because I will be doing nothing of the sort. He told me that he was too busy with the party planning and work and that he wouldn't have time to do that. So he was like, okay, if you haven't got time to do that, just make some appetizers or some canapes, something like that. Like, Steve, I think you've really missed the point there. He then throws the biggest little man tantrum ever. And he was like, please, I just want to have a nice party with my friends. Steve, babe, grow up. I was firm and I was like, nah, you better call catering before it's too late. 2 weeks passed by and he didn't call any catering services or order any food. He left it too late until no one was available anymore and then came crying to me about it. I obviously got incredibly upset by all of this. We were arguing about it literally every day. So I just turned around in the end and said, that's it. We're not having the party, we're cancelling everything. So I called everyone and told them all that the party was done. It was cancelled. And naturally now my husband is absolutely fuming with me. He says that he can't believe how selfish I have been. He told me to quit being such an arsehole. Said it's a shame that I can't even do something nice for somebody that is struggling. AKA his friend that is single and has been for the past 30 years because he's an absolute weirdo. So what do you think? Am I in the wrong here?
my mom's crazy past. We left off with my mom coming back from trade school, finding out she's now 16 and pregnant. To understand my mom, her mindset, and why she made the decisions she made, we'll have to rewind before we can move forward, look into her childhood. My mom felt a lot of guilt and shame coming back pregnant, not because she was ashamed of the baby. In fact, that baby would be the thing that ends up changing her life, but because she felt like she disappointed my nanny. It's important to know that my nanny was my mom's grandmother and my mama was my grandmother. My mom had a lot of respect for my nanny because she spent so much time with her and being raised by her, and she only asked my mama one thing, and that was to not get pregnant before 18, because none of the women at that point in my family had been able to do that. Aside from a great aunt who illegally got her tubes tied at a young age, we're not gonna get into what they was doing in the 60s. My nanny was like a mom to my mama, because my mama had my mother at a very young age. Let's just say she wasn't the best mom for a long time, because for most of my mom's childhood, my mama was on slugs. My mom spent a lot of time raising herself, so it got so bad at one point that my mama shipped my mom off to stay with a family member in Kentucky. Now, this family member was not fond of the fact that my mom had a black father. This family member would often tell my mother that she was not black, that she was white, and she forced her to ride the white school bus to school and would never let her ride the black school bus to school. Well, this family member was also extremely toxic, obviously, and also tried to pimp my mom out at the age of 12 to her boss, who was in their 60s, by the way, allegedly. As you can imagine, my mom was a rambunctious child. She was ready to run hands at 12 and had a loud mouth, so it didn't go as planned, and they ended up shipping her next day back to Georgia. This family member tried to pretend they had no idea their boss was trying to do this and played dumb the entire time. After coming back to Georgia, not much had changed with my mama, so my mom spent a lot of time with both her grandmothers. Now, her biological father at this point in time wasn't really an active father, but his mother was. And my mom often talks about how her grandmother would lay oil on her head and pray over her all the time. And the nanny, which is the grandmother that I know, spent a lot of time raising my mom and pouring into her. But my mom did not like the fact that so many people seemingly took advantage of my nanny. Many of my nanny's children have often admitted to being horrible when they were younger, stealing from her, taking advantage of her, lying to her, and always coming to her to pay their bills because a lot of them were on slugs. Because my mom grew up seeing them take advantage of my nanny, she was very protective over her, and she fought a lot of our family members. Now, does this mean my mama was innocent and didn't add to the gray hair on some of my nanny's head? Not at all. But my mom also realized that not only did my nanny put up with an alcoholic, abusive husband who was later in life accused doing not so great things to his daughters, which further explains the issues that my grandmother and many of her siblings had. She also saw the way that her children were to her, and it really rubbed my mom the wrong way. When she got kicked out at 15 years old, my mom had already had a job, and she was prone to dating slug dealers. So she always had money and was always popping up at my nanny's house, making her promise not to tell her kids every time she gave her money. Because my nanny was the type, I'm gonna give you my last if you say you need it. And my mom and her argued back and forth about that all the time. That also contributes to why my mom worked so hard, because even in high school, she still had her own apartment. She was still working and became manager at Hardee's. She was out here doing and she always had money. Again, my mom was still buck wild in these streets, fighting and acting a fool and doing things she was not supposed to do. No, she is not innocent in a lot of these stories, but that just helps to paint a picture as to why she is the way that she is.
Am I the astronaut for thinking my husband should have had my back in this situation? My husband and I started dating around 3 years ago. At the time we were dating, his best friend was a woman. We'll call her Megan. I tried to befriend Megan, but from the beginning she was icy to me, even rude. She would constantly minimize and disrespect our relationship, call it merely carnal, and ignore me while attempting to have my now husband focus his attention on her and ignore me. She would invite him places and make it very clear that I was not to be included. When our relationship became serious, Megan talked negatively about me to mutual friends and basically cut him off as a friend if he was choosing to be with me. Anytime since then, she will completely turn her back on me and refuse to speak to me. Fast forward 3 years, we are married now. Last night, we were invited to a trivia night with a group of friends. An hour into the night, who showed up? Megan. We did not know she would be there. Of course, she would not even say hello, wouldn't look my way, was rude and dismissive yet again. As we were getting ready to leave, my husband and I stood up and began walking around to say our goodbyes. He walks up to Megan, gives her a big hug, and kisses her cheek. I'm right behind him, and she literally turned her back and walked away, refusing to even say goodbye or anything. Once again, rude and disrespectful to me. My husband said absolutely nothing to her about her behavior, yet again, toward me. I was really frustrated and angry. I believe my husband's actions allow her to believe that she can be kind or friendly to him and rude or dismissive to me, and he is okay with that. He could have said anything to her, like, it's not okay for you to be rude to my wife while accepting toward me, or he could have just walked away without hugging or kissing her cheek when he saw how she treated me/us yet again just because she cannot stand our relationship. He thinks I'm wrong, but I believe the message he is giving is that she can continue to treat me this way, and he will continue to turn his cheek to it, both literally and figuratively. I really need clarity on this. Am I the astronaut for feeling this way? Again, the initial question was, am I the astronaut for thinking my husband should have had my back in this situation?